Good to see you.
Yes, hello everyone. Good to see you this afternoon.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
So what's our topic today?
Our topic today is quite special. We are beginning this series on relationships and, it's Timeless Conversations Relationship Series, Relationship Collection. And today we are starting with how do we make requests of each other? It sounds simple, right? But it is an area that a lot of us may run into problems with.
Mm.
What do two of
I,
you say about this?
I think the series... Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
I was just wondering what inspired you guys to come up with this topic?
Actually, we had a suggestion from a friend, and also we realized that talking about timeless conversation is quite abstract, and we talked a lot about being present and also about awareness, but we can only come back home or see ourselves through others. Everyone is like a mirror to us, so how to relate, how our relationships are showing ourselves. So I think it makes more objective and more practical.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think this series is going to be more focused on how are we being aware as we interact with other people, and what that tells about us while we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer your question, by the way?
Yes.
And maybe Joe, you would like to tell us a little bit on what your response is when you heard the topic.
Oh, I was like, great, because like everyone can resonate with it. Because when we talk about awareness, for some people, they might think it's some kind of spiritual practice that there's nothing to do with their daily life. Like sometimes we have this separation of spirituality, spiritual practice is different world from my life, from the life where I talk to my mom, talk to a shopkeeper, talk to anyone around me. And it's really just the same thing. The awareness is everywhere, in our every breath. So we cannot run away from it. So using the topic, I think because we all have desires, and then every day we experience like we have some requests to people, small or big. It's just very natural. So this topic really allows everyone, including me, to really pay attention to this very special mirroring that we might take for granted every day. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to introduce this by asking a question. What is the difference between a request and a demand? That's very important, because we could be many times thinking that we're making a request, but what classifies that as a demand versus a request?
Julia?
Well, I think it's very pertinent, the topic today, because when people come together, there is give and take. There's a flow, and people do things together, and you want things from each other, and sometimes when a question is asked or request is made, it is seen more, and if there is a sense of resistance or you don't want, and then you feel like very, very uncomfortable about it, it is very likely that it's perceived as a demand. And demands is then, for me, maybe situations where the person is not willing to say yes, but the other person insists that it has to be given. There's a kind of like a struggle then. In a demand is when a party is not willing or not sure or resistant, and the other party is insisting on something, then that is where demand happens. Whereas making a request, the conditions for a request is that I request, but then I can take yes, I can also take no.
Thank you, Julia. Actually, what you said is very pertinent, and yeah. So when we make requests, it's usually like we are ready to take a yes or a no, and like it also takes a bit of observation of the space between the person requesting and the person receiving the request. But you see, when a demand is made, it's a bit different because maybe the space is not being seen, or maybe people are taking roles. Like maybe when you make a demand, you're seeing yourself as a character, or seeing the other person as a character, or both, and that becomes a demand. And maybe known when you're denied for fulfilling that demand, it could be something like almost like unacceptable. Or maybe the person that you're demanding to could be unseen, or maybe you're not seeing yourself when you're making that demand. So how does that impact our relationship when we're requesting versus demanding? What do you think, Xuane?
Wow, it's totally different. Yes. When we're demanding, for me, what is request is just like what Julia says. When requests are natural. It's nature, just like the topic last time for us. It comes from the nature. And when we request, we're simply expressing it without expectations. Like what Julia said, it's like you accept yes or no. You don't even think about it because you're just delivering what is natural here. But demand is you already have a storyline that you're in this role and you're pushing it to be something your separate self, the small self wants. So of course it brings suffering actually because you have attachment to the other person's response. Even though you say, I don't care. Sometimes they say, I don't care, I'm just being vulnerable, but you can only be honest with yourself, right? Yes. When you deliver this request, do you actually want the other person to give you something that you want instead of just purely putting this request out there? That's all. And I see that sometimes we say, oh, it's just a request. I'm just being want the other person to give you something that you want. Sometimes you feel when you get the answer is no, then we see we're triggered, and then we might say, have this anger resistance, like, why can't you see I'm being vulnerable? Or, you know, like you insist that you are purely giving a request, but actually you don't even know you are demanding, and you think you are being vulnerable. I think that's a very, very subtle, tricky part when we are practicing being vulnerable in this request. So of course, what Eddie says is, what's the difference? It's a huge difference, but we able to observe that it is really ongoing, nonstop observing.
Thank you. When you mentioned about requests and demand, and then you also mentioned about characters, means that what I'm trying to say is that sometimes here, like where I am, for example, when like women talk about guys, for example, they say, you know, you should drive for me, because, you know, here in Thailand, like the gentleman has to drive for the woman, for example. So I don't know how to take that sentence, because I get confused. I don't know if that's a request, or there's an attempt to put me into a character where you should comply to culture or to this ethics or etiquette of what a man should be as, like acting as. So I think in a lot of demands, it's like trying to, I'll give you an example of a sentence, like putting the monkey into the branch where it belongs, kind of thing, you know. It's not different with men talking to women in some other cultures, like, you know, you should make my meal. When I arrive tired from home, I expect that my food is ready. Like, you know, you're my wife. What are you doing all day? Like, you should be like, I should have my meal ready or something like that, you know. So what I'm inviting us to observe is that the characters kick in, and then there's a set of demands that could be unseen, or like things that should be done because of the characterization of people or situations. So what I think that request does is that takes that away. It peels away the roles, and then we honestly request, like, could you, like, I give you an example, Xuane, could you kindly make a sandwich for me?
Sure.
So yeah, so that would be a request. But if you say no, then it'll be okay. So I'm like observing my space and looking at you and the situation, and then checking on that. Why we're talking about space? Because the space between two people, we're looking at their moment, we're looking at respect and all that, and it doesn't characterize into anything. People don't have to be characters.
Yes.
And that's when request is able to take place.
Yeah.
But when we demand, it's like almost like you have to do it, or something must be done. So I'm gonna just give you an example. If you like, if you girls can develop this topic a little more on that, on this, give me your view, please.
I would like to then channel another question, which is how, so that all of us can feel into it. What happens when someone makes a demand of us, even if we are willing to do it, how does it feel? What is happening in, let's say, if in us being made the request to, if we are the party being made the request to, how usually do you feel and what goes on in your mind?
That's a very good question, because you could be willing to do it and it came as a demand, but then you could go like, oh, this was not a request, it was a demand. And we could fall into the, could you request kindly, or something like that. We could see it as something uncomfortable, but also we could not see it as uncomfortable. So that's the point when we receive it. Could we be seeing ourselves as a character, or could we see the other person demanding as a demander? That also requires our awareness, and are we going to fall into it or not? So this is tricky, because even though a question or a comment comes as a demand, we could take it personally as a character, or like Julia said, we were willing to do it anyways. So the thing is, are we gonna fall into the characterization or not? Are we gonna fulfill it as a request or as a demand? So what happens to that space? Are we looking at the space between people, or are we looking at ourselves, or looking at the other person, or take to another level, like be uncomfortable and then maybe project into an emotion? You know what I mean? Is it necessary, or is it not? What do you think, Xuane?
I love what you're talking about. Thank you, Eddie. You put it so beautifully. Yes, it's the space. It's all about the space. And thank you, Julia. It's really about the other person. Like if I'm being demanded or requested, it's still my space of this moment. I'm choosing where to put my awareness on. I could, because we can only see ourselves, receiving as requests, receiving as demands, is still what's happening here for me. It's not about what you do to the other person. And so it could be the exact same thing, but my experience might be totally different. And I cannot predict like this present moment, how I'm gonna receive it. We don't know. But in this, sometimes I sometimes have this really interesting space that, like, I know the other person is giving me a demand, but the other person doesn't even, this person is not aware it's a demand. This person just takes it for granted as it's just a simple request. And then I will see that, like, this Xuane in the character having like all the splits. Oh, I'm a loving, gentle person. It's okay. This person doesn't know. It's okay. And I'm happy to do it anyways. And another split of my mind would go, I need to educate this person how to make a conscious request. And a split of this Xuane, this mind, is like, oh, I don't mind, but I'm gonna act angry. I'm going to play with having resistance and see what the other person responds. But in the present, then I start laughing out of no reason, like in the space of like above all this. It just I see as perfect either way, like either way I respond, because I see this space, so it doesn't matter. and whatever I choose, you just, it's like when we're playing tennis, it's just natural, like how we play, and all the playing, like whatever comes out of this is it's a gift.
Yeah.
Even though it might end up arguments, it might end up, whatever, but there is no success or unsuccess in in the core, because what needs to come out, what energy is there between you two, will just be revealed when you are conscious of what you are. Then you just kind of see the mirror, what is presenting to you. And definitely a lot of times especially in an intimate relationship, we would fall into this, I'm going to choose awareness A, not awareness B, because I want outcome A, not outcome B. And then it's controlling. Yes. With expectations, it is still controlling.
Thank you for your sharing. I also like to add that we have to be careful about this, because if we are into the term only, is this a demand or request, then it becomes a filter where we become like a radar. Is that person talk to me in a demand or request? So the whole purpose of this drill and this exercise is lost completely.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example. Julia, can you make me a request, please? Just for a role play here.
Can you give me a massage now?
Okay. So
Okay.
I will reply you like, is this a demand or a request? So wait. How do you feel when you hear that?
It's like, nah. Huh?
So
What?
Judgment before.
I'm not there. Why are you putting me there?
Why are you projecting on me?
So you see,
it's not in my mind.
when we do that, our ultimate purpose is not to nourish the space. We're a detector now. Like, is this a request or a demand? It's like we're calling to something, like a theme or something like. So we have to be careful with that. And like Xuane said just now, it's more for us to kindly observe ourselves and see, are we demanding or are we requesting, rather than the other person. Is that person requesting or demanding? You see, this is different. When you step into someone's space, it's more for you to observe than to show and pinpoint, are you observing that you're demanding? And now it's more like we step into the space and make requests and see what happens,
Yeah.
Like with a lot of respect and kindness, you step and you want to see how you're stepping to that space and how is that person receiving. That's why we say when a request is made, we have to be willing to receive a yes or a no.
Absolutely. So the question that I asked just now was more for finding in ourselves what happens when someone demands of us something. But both of you actually went even further than that. You brought up many things, and it's quite intricate. Like Xuane actually brought us to this understanding that, or this seeing that we cannot put a formula to it, and anything can happen. And Eddie reinforced that as well, because the purpose of this exercise and this drill will be lost if we are saying that, we are teaching you how to gauge whether a person is making a demand or not. No, that is not what what we are doing at all. What Eddie said, I agree very much, is we can only govern our own intent, we can only govern our own awareness. Whatever comes back to us can tell us a lot about either how we are requesting or just tell us more about the other person or our dynamic. It might not be something that is within control. But what we want to say here is that usually when demands or imperatives or you should do this. You should do this. As a man, you should take out the trash, okay? And as a man, you should be the one giving me the massage and not the other way around, for example. Then, man, it's suddenly something like just now I said, I was not there, but you placed me in a territory or a terrain that suddenly has me to consider a role, a character, a must, a should, and suddenly I'm taken out of a spontaneity. Suddenly I'm taken out of a moment, which
there's something even more subtle than that, which is like, well, the examples I give, they're like too obvious, like the man or the woman and things like that, what they should do in their roles. But there's something even more subtle, like when couples go for couples therapy or couples retreat or something like that, and then they come back from, like, I don't know, 1 week retreat or a weekend retreat, and they go like, oh, this was so wonderful and learned so many things. But then if you get caught on the terms rather than the real essence of it, later on, this could sound more than damaging and sarcastic when it becomes like a sarcasm, like, it's been like a week now, we went to the retreat, and now all I see is like a bunch of demands masqueraded looking like requests, for example, or you didn't learn anything when you went there. So we have to be careful about things like, are we going for learning the technique, or are we really truly caring for the space? Like, are we really treasuring that? Is it really for true respect and make that being, that person seen? Or do we have a hidden agenda and we're trying to transform that person into something that we want, So we have to be very careful, because if you ask me, I would say I'd rather not even learn any of these terms regarding demand or request if they're gonna turn into sarcasm or like detecting tools or things like that. Because I think then it will damage more than the space. It will damage trust. People will not be able to be vulnerable anymore, because everything is gonna be detected and used conveniently into the relationship. Is that possible?
Hugely possible. Why is that so? Because if we forget that very pristine reason or the pristine desire of that is existent in many to want to connect to another person, for what? It's when that very basic desire to connect so that we are not alone, and not only not alone in a sense that we are able to share something with somebody. If that basic premise is left and forgotten, and then it becomes some other things, it becomes a transaction, or it becomes like fulfilling roles or fulfilling certain expectations, when we are dancing other things other than the very basic premise of connecting with another person, it gets messy. it gets to be then a competition of demands. It's like competition of expectations. And you mentioned that even techniques and tools and all that can be used to police each other as a method of manipulation and control, as a demand to see who's wrong or right. Then again, the whole point is missed altogether. The reason why we are talking about this topic today is not for us all to get the one up or be able to make a deal or make a business pact or something like that. It's not what we are aiming at all. You can do that. You can use all the techniques or all the premise that we are talking about today and make it a list of how to manipulate and control a conversation. We can.
I just want to make it clear that what we are talking here today is not like a technique on how to get what you want. First of all, it's not about that. And how to request so that your request is attended and fulfilled. It's not about that either. It's more about observing how we're stepping into someone's space. Are we demanding, or are we in huge amount of expectation, or that person is as important as us? That's why we're making a request. Is that person and what you treasure is as important as who you are. Therefore, we're making requests and not demanding.
Yes.
Then
do you think it just came to me about freedom? If we are not willing to allow ourselves freedom when we are expressing request, can we even allow freedom for the other person who is receiving? Is it possible? It just came to me. If there's no freedom here, there are shoulds and should nots in my projections, then if there's no freedom, there's limitation here when I express the request. Can we even allow the space of the other person
to be free?
What you're saying is so important because, like, after people are married, for example, are we allowing our spouses to be authentic? So, is my wife or my husband free to be themselves, or am I gonna imprison them into their roles? You know what I mean? Are they free? But this is a two-way thing, because once we make demands, we are not free ourselves.
Yes.
First of all, we start with that.
Yes.
Because if that person denies to fulfill the demand, that person could be free and not, but are we free,
Yes.
So, very good question. I like that question very much. Very well put. And I think there's one more thing that we could take from this is that if we make true requests, we're giving so much space for gratefulness, When we demand, we could very likely to have a pinch of arrogance, maybe power, maybe so many things. But I don't know how much space is in that demand for gratefulness. But if we're ready that any possibility could occur, and we make requests, and let's say something happens, like, okay, I can do that for you, then there is so much room for gratefulness, because even no is okay for us, So, how is being grateful nurturing to a relating between two people? What do you think?
You have put it very well in the sense that when a demand is being made or perceived demand is happening, there is what is being erased is the potentiality for gratitude. And yeah, gratitude is so important for any kind of relating. If there's no, in fact, if there's any, I know that many of us have been looking to things like language of love and all that, but to me, the basic premise of loving is really being in gratitude. Whether or not we could cherish, whether we could perceive the other, respect or treasure the other person, is only through the eyes of gratitude. So that's love.
Thank you for sharing, Julia. I also like to ask then, what would be the difference between appreciating the person or appreciating the request fulfilled or appreciating the space? So how do you see that, girls?
Joe, go first. Xuane, go first.
I'm not thinking, but my first response is appreciating the space is the only way of being present. Yes. When even, when we put on filter, even it's the filter of, oh, this glasses is called gratitude. I must see everyone in gratitude. I must see everyone in love because I should. In this space, there's no freedom. Even though in our personal experience, we know it's exactly true. In love, we truly see. In gratitude, we truly receive gifts no matter what. But when we are not present, then we demand ourselves to do something, to fulfill ourselves. Then we're not allowing this freedom, this presence. Then if we're not allowing ourselves freedom, we're not allowing what is presented in this pure present moment, but living in our head, trying to, I must see gratitude. I must. If I don't, then there is something wrong with me. It's like these mental activities. Then we really miss the point of this space of appreciation.
Yeah.
Wow, I really, really like that, really. And it's very clear because appreciating a person is different from appreciating the space, because I don't want to say that the space is a space between two people. For me, in a practical way, the space is this whole universe. And by looking at that, it's already gratitude itself. But appreciating another person, we don't know what's there. We might be seeing that person as someone. And then it could become something like, I'm not being seen in this relationship, or can't you even see me here, or things like that. But when we're treasuring this space and nurturing it, everything's relevant. Every moment is relevant. It's impossible to see the space without being present. And that itself, it's gratitude, So thank you so much, Xuane, for saying that. It's like much beyond what I was even imagining. It's like, wow, thank you so much.
That leads me to a question on who we are before we make any request or whatever. It's like that if we have to take all the no's in that request, the premise for being that position is that we come from a position of no needs. What do you think?
We are the space itself. We are the whole universe in it. We are also the other person that's mirroring us back to us. And I know this sounds very abstract, and that's why we're having this timeless conversation today, relationship series, because how can we love another, whatever it is in the space, if we don't see ourselves as a space and in gratitude, and also being present. So when we say like, oh, I treasure our space, you know, what does that mean really? It's just beautiful phrases and sentences, or is it true? Because there's no such thing as our space, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's only space, period. And are we present, you know?
Mm.
That's my answer.
So Xuane, you tell your turn. Does it mean that we should our wholeness, or because we have to be ready for all the no's, we should be able to take all the no's with such graciousness, even if it cuts so close to the vulnerability, like, I'm here dying on the deathbed and I really want to see you now, and no.
Mm.
So how does it mean that we always cultivate in ourselves like this fullness, that there's no need?
That's still a demand for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the word prepare for every no means we're not present.
Yeah.
If we're in the pre,
Yeah.
we are already either in a defense system, defensiveness, or ready to get hurt.
Yes.
Or that's not vulnerability in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, so so a request is made only when we are able to receive a yes or a no, but the no is not something that is a preemptive no, because being in that are you going to say no, it's going to already bring something else into the space that is not present, right?
And sometimes, of course, we sometimes our mind experience fear. That's why this life is interesting and exciting when we are willing to be vulnerable. It makes it much more spectacular when we're really willing to be vulnerable. It adds so much beauty to this practice, like 100% willing, being vulnerable, and also surrender. Even I cannot take it, but I still appreciate whatever it is now, even my response or my resistance, even accepting my own resistance, accepting my own frustration and disappointment. Because here we are not talking about how to not have disappointments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also when you mention about our minds full of fear, it's like, let's not test our mind through the relationship or see how we are, but more likely take the opportunity of that relating to be present with that interaction. You know what I mean? And not like be present to make yourself stable or something like that. You know what I mean? So use the observation and that relating to enjoy the present and being present, rather than okay, I'm present now, I'm ready for this, I'm gonna be ready for this relating, you know. And then we hold on to that presence as a formula for success.
Yes.
But actually, we don't know what's gonna happen, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, this brings me back to the first question actually I wanted to ask right from the beginning, because we are also learning by the negatives what relationship is. It's like, why do we want to relate? I think let me hear from both of you. It's like, why do people want to relate in the first place, and where does vulnerability come into the mix of it?
Wait. Let me make this clear first. There's a difference between relating and relationship. So I don't know how many people are willing or wanting to relate. Because a lot of people, they want a relationship. And what's the difference? They want a husband that cooks, and husband that's financially stable or whatever, and handsome or tall, whatever. That's a relationship between characters. But relating is different. Relating is like, you don't know what's gonna come up tomorrow. It's just re-encountering yourself and re-encountering that person, and just curiously like, hello, how are you today? And just like, let me see, how am I? I'm feeling so peaceful now. Hey, did you eat already? It's like everything's so curious and innocent, you know? It's so beautiful. That's relating.
Yes.
But turning someone into this is very relevant. Like, do you want a relationship or you want to relate? I don't know if everybody's willing to relate. It's total different things.
Tell me why relate for you, Eddie. Why relate at all?
For me, for a long time now, everything is to relate. After I dropped down the importance of characters, and I keep seeing and observing myself more, everything's a relating. Every moment I don't know who I am, you know. It's just as vulnerable, as simple as that. You see, if you don't know who you are in every moment, and you have to observe yourself to check how you are, then it's very difficult and very unlikely that you're gonna turn the other person into a romantic woman or a violent man or whatever. You see? Because even you are observing yourself to find out, how am I now? Okay. What do you think, Xuane? What's the difference for you between relationship and relate? Would you like to share something on that?
I'm enjoying what you just said. Just bang on.
Before I go the stage to you, I just tease out this part that he was talking about. That what I'm hearing is that relating begins also within ourselves. Our relating with ourselves, knowing where we are, knowing our space, knowing
I want to hear what Xuane has to say, because she began and
yes. I'm going to say this and then pass it on so that it's teased out. Come on, Xuane.
Thank you for bringing this up, Eddie. Why relate? So the question is, why do you choose relationships or relating? It's so interesting because we are never not relating. Just if we are aware, if we put all our relationships, put all our attention and awareness on relationships, then we think we are in relationships. And of course, we know that we're trapped in the control and demand kind of stories. But we never stop relating, whether you like it or not. And why relating? Why? How would I don't know what I am now because I'm only freedom and space, and relating is I desiring to discover I myself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's so amazing.
Oh, it's simple as that. And it's whether me likes it or not, whether me chooses it or not. We're always relating everything in front of our eyes, in our awareness, even outside of our awareness. Everything is relating.
You know, when you say that, you know, there's some things that came to me, which is like, when we don't know ourselves and we're always finding out who we are moment by moment, there's no way we could ever say things such as, I should love myself more, or I should treasure myself more, because there was never a moment of myself. There was only what is, you know, like this discovery, constant discovery, you know. But when you go like, oh, I didn't treasure myself enough, or I should love myself more, what does that mean? What do you think that means, Xuane?
That should. That I love to, whenever we're talking about relationships, like in every single topic, anyone can talk about relationships, and we talk about the other person. And it's exactly, it really wowed me when I found that in my awareness that you can basically put I instead of him, she, you, they. It's just exactly the same. You say, there is no freedom if I demand the other person. Then there is no freedom when I demand myself to love me. If there's still expectations and control, and you project something that there must be something as good.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, if you say I should love myself more or treasure myself more, there's an expectation of what's this ideal self or ideal condition. So that's like a very beautiful prison where you encapsulate yourself, and then you put it like, yeah, should treasure myself more. So, you know, what will be the result of that, for example, you know? Are we truly free, right? Okay, sorry, Xuane, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, Eddie. Sorry. This is really interesting, and it could be sometimes you might experience it sad or excitement or interesting. So let's listen to these sentences. You guys feel about them. So, why don't you love me? Why do you not love me the way I want you to love me? Okay, that's the first one. And the second one, why don't I love myself? Why can't I love myself the way I want myself to love myself?
I want to add one more. You know, I've been neglecting myself in this relationship. I forgot to take care of me, you know.
You should love me this way and do this for me. Do this for me. Otherwise, you're not proving you love me. I should love myself this way. I should do this for myself. I should do this for myself. Otherwise, I'm not loving myself.
Why are you talking to me like this? I feel so invisible now. Can't you see how you're talking to me?
And Julia replaced the you into I.
Yeah. if you replace it into an I, it will be why am I talking to myself in this way? Why am I talking to myself in a way that is invisible to me? Or like what you were saying, like Xuane was saying, why is it that I am making demands of myself in this way so then that I will be happy?
Yeah.
There's something very interesting about what you said, just demand right now, Julia, is that the two things will nurture something. When a demand is nurtured, fulfilled, something is being nurtured. When a request is fulfilled, something else is being nurtured. It's not the same thing, even though the action of the person who is attending to the request is exactly the same. So, I want to ask you girls, what would that be then? Could be a simple request like, bring me water. Whether that's a demand or request, but when a demand is fulfilled, what is being nurtured, and when a request is being fulfilled, what this other thing is being nurtured then?
It's a bit confusing here because the directionality, the only person who is able to know whether something is a demand or a request or not is the requester and the demander. But that,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When your request or your demand is fulfilled,
what is happening and what's being nurtured?
Yeah,
right?
what's alive in you? What's happening actually
Yeah.
in your space and you?
So let me try. So if I'm the one demanding that it has to be a certain way, like you have to drive for me, for example, then I am putting myself, when I say you have to drive because you're the man. You have to drive. I can say it nicely. You have to drive because you're a man. Okay. And then what is happening to me there is that I have placed myself squarely into an imperative that that I will only be happy if you drive, or I will only see you as a man if you drive. And I'm also putting myself into a position of, if he doesn't drive, then I won't be happy, and etc. along the line of this. So in a demand, I'm putting myself in all sorts of conditions for myself to be fulfilled or happy. On the yeah, you want to say something?
Thank you. You use the word fulfilled, and the thing is, when we relate, sometimes we're looking a lot at our needs, but sometimes we don't know what we need. And sometimes we think we need something, and then we make demands, and we think that our girlfriend or boyfriend, spouse, or even family members or friends, they have to meet our needs. So I don't know if that's a good strategy. I'm just wondering here.
Whether it's a good strategy to fulfill,
To see others like I want a man that will make me happy, and I want to feel fulfilled. For example, how is it to deposit the fulfilling of our needs on another person?
on a man.
How does that work?
It's a non-stop, endless trap of not meeting yourself. That's a tragedy. Yes.
If whole focus and attention is on some conditions to make yourself fulfilled, yeah?
Going back to the question that and the answer that was sent to you, Julia, is that when a demand is fulfilled, there's a very big chance that that person was not seen during that fulfillment. Why? Maybe the character was there, and maybe the image of the character may become strengthened in your perspective and your view. And whatever is being nurtured there is the person becomes a good husband or a good friend. But when the request is fulfilled, it's like, oh, okay. It gives room for more observation and appreciation. And there's a high chance that the characters, they dissolve, you know. So when we want someone to fulfill our needs, so what's the healthiest way to look at it, at the situation? And what would be a good way to request? Do you have any examples on that?
Before we jump into good ways to request, I think that's quite a bit to digest. Yeah.
Yes.
It's quite a bit to digest here with regard to, it's like what Eddie was just talking about in terms of, fulfillment, about, Xuane, can you tell us what you thought when he was speaking before we go on to the how to request?
And so certainly it's like the energy is like going to the mind, then it can answer this question, like it's like
suddenly it's
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're
I
right.
don't know if I can answer if I share this. So I remember there were those times when I was in a relationship and I knew I was manipulating. I was demanding. The energy is actually demanding, no matter how I look like, how I try to disguise as a vulnerable, loving, sweet, gentle request. And then, but I knew I was demanding because my heart was like crying for love, attention, out of fear, out of this space of lacking. And then you know that you're trying to get something from the other person. And also you're judging yourself. Oh my God, I'm not loving, I'm taking. And then the other person actually just purely respond you with this lightness, loving willingness. And then it wowed me. It's like shift me back to this space of, wow, I have nothing to request. Actually, if you don't do anything my mind told you to do just now, I'm happy already because you are so present with me. And actually the fear, the lacking, like the desire of being loved, it's just met there without this person doing anything that I told him to do. This space of seeing me, this space of really seeing me, meeting me, itself already answers the real request of my heart. Simple as that. And then I learn immediately from the other person because it's like, wow, love. Wow, love. And then
Exactly.
yes.
When a request is met, whether it's met or not, it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because if you can see through it, the fulfillment is not objectively in the request,
Yes.
I have something to share. The other day, it was like funny because I needed a massage. I was a bit tired. So I called the massage shop, and then the person who answered was like with a sleepy voice. And I said, "Are you open? Can you do a massage on me?" And then the person, "Oh, I closed the shop already." But okay. Then I said, wait. Were you just sleeping? Yeah, I just woke up, but I still can go and do massage for you. I said, no. You know, I would like you to sleep, please. Just rest. And that person, no, it's okay, I can go. And I was like, oh, but you're at home or in the shop. And the person, I'm home. I said, please take a good rest, okay? Maybe we can do this some other time. So we hang up, and I feel so good, you know. My request was not tender at all.
Yes.
In terms of request, but I feel like that caring, you know, like
Yes.
I can go now, even though I'm in bed and just woke up. And I was like, wow. And then the fulfillment I got, the true fulfillment, then I could find out like, oh, I had a need. I didn't see that, but I'm so fulfilled now. I'm so grateful and happy now. And this is so subtle, you know?
Yeah. And isn't it beautiful? Because Eddie, like in a very small example as this you just put out, at the moment that you take the other person as yourself, you're already fulfilling.
Yes.
Love is fulfilled. And it doesn't just happen to romantic or intimate relationships. It's everything, even a stranger that you call to get a massage.
Exactly.
The present moment, we are really wanting the best for the other person. We're seeing the other person as ourselves. And you witness the other person is doing the same. Like, it's just fulfilled itself.
That's why when people come with could sound genuine requests like, I want a love that understands me, that gets me, and all that. You cannot find this anywhere else.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah.
Who can get you more than you know?
Yeah.
I'm so grateful you're here today.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you.
Grateful for everyone that's watching us too.
Yeah. So that totally sort of like nullifies the question that Eddie asked just now. It's like, how then do we make a request? There's no how. Of course we do it as kindly, as lovingly as possible, but the thing is, whatever it is, like both of you have pointed out, and we have basked in that knowing, is that fulfillment is
Actually, the request is not necessarily for us, and it could be a caring one. For example, if I say, Xuane, I would like to go to the market, and would you like something? I mean, can you go with me? Like, maybe 3 p.m., would that work for you? So at that moment, there's so much observation to be done. There's so much opportunity in that, you know?
Yes. So many things to be aware in the space. Even just a really simple request without like any possibilities for like power struggle or manipulation. still a lot to see ourselves in experience what we're experiencing right now, even like really small, light request.
Yeah. So there was a moment lost, I think, when a request or a demand or whatever that is being made, and it ends up in a tussle of, you should probably ask it another way. Why are you asking me this? And you should or should not ask, or I should and why can't I not ask? That is already like a big elephant blocking everything that is possible for that seeing to happen. The seeing of the other person and seeing of their needs. It's just that seeing. Yeah, so well.
Anyways, this was our first episode of the series for relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would also like to ask, do you like this, Xuane, like, be part of this series, like, regarding relationship? Because
I'm just enjoying every moment of it. I'm just so grateful I'm invited. Thank you. And I didn't know it's your first episode or something.
we just decided this week that we should, since a relationship and relating is definitely one area of application of all this awareness things that we are talking about. And so we might be doing, like with you, we will be doing talks on relationship, and then maybe alternating with other awareness talks. Yeah,
I'm so honored, and I'm passionate about this because in my previous life I suffered so much in this relationships things. So that's my, like, I walk through all the experiences that were just precious for my expansion and growth. I'm so grateful for all those, every bit of it, even the most suffering, most heartbreaking, painful parts. It's just precious gift for me to see and to really experience this perfection of love itself. So, and like, people come to me for insights, and most of them are about relationships. So it's always empowering to myself to see how every step in our past was just moving us to this divine purpose, and the universe sending all these people around us, in front of us, even asking us about relationships. They are constantly gifts for us to even go deeper.
yes,
To see deeper, to embrace deeper of this love.
and
So thank you for this opportunity for me to explore more, to be even more curious and more innocent, to play, to discover more. Thank you.
thank you. And there's something I used to hear when I was younger, that the more we age, and heartbreaking experience and everything, we start to become more demanding, like more perfectionist, like, I want this kind of person, this person cannot be like this or has to be like that. And the older it gets, I heard that it's more difficult to find someone suitable or something like that. Because I think the checklist becomes more specific, maybe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right now, nowadays, in my relatings with anything, what I realize that when, like, I'm interacting with you girls, and I see that you girls are aware and present, it's just some good excuse to just celebrate, you know? You know, like, just be grateful for that, you know, it's like, wow. So, we don't become demanding because we don't have demands, but more like requests, you know?
And the gratefulness of being invited.
Exactly. The invitation to interact and see ourselves is so beautiful, so gracious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to just like reflect a little bit on what was said just now, that I'm saying this to myself and sharing with all of you, that if we start to see demands, requests, whatever comes forth as the opportunity not only to see the other person, because the other is really not apart from me. It's also an opportunity to see me, and if we see that as an opportunity for seeing, it's not just about taking something from me, then I'll be one step closer to meeting myself and that fulfillment.
Actually, you will meet yourself regardless if you're present, and is it a true request or not. If it's a true request, the meeting yourself is not in the fulfillment of the request.
Exactly. Exactly. That is exactly what I was trying to convey. It is not in the request. It is in the seeing of what is, and the taking of whatever object of relating as me. The opportunity for that. The opportunity for that. So with that, you know, it's 1:18. We have gone past the hour.
Thank you so much.
And let's send your requests in if you want to have any other things to talk about relationships.
Please put on the comments down below.
Are we going to have like Q&A session next time? That would be great.
Yeah, and
yes,
I would
we would love to answer your questions.
Please.
And I would also like to do a shout out for Xuane, because Xuane has just she has been having a very she has a gift for guiding, for using her intuition to guide, and it's only in recent times that she has decided to step up with it. So if you want to have a clear mirror to talk through your stuckness about anything, just contact her. You can see her email, Xuane in meta@gmail.com. Right.
So, Julia, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a tour guide. I was joking with Julia. Julia said, because I don't know what to call what I do. I don't have a name or limitation. And Julia suggested intuitive guide. And oh yeah, I'm more like a tour guide, right? Like tour guide, like seeing, oh, this is you, this is the real you, and let me introduce you what's in front of me right now. So it's like a tour guide, like I saw a tour guide like having this flag in my hand, saying, hey, look, this, you, the beautiful you that you don't see.
Thank you for pointing the path.
Yeah, let's all be tour guides for each other.
See you.
And see you all soon. Okay?
Bye bye.
See you.
Mwah. Mwah.